Hello, fellow human light beings. How are you? This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dive more deeply into how to become deities that creates reality. And specifically, we're going to take a look at how to see into the future in order to create your 5D destiny. We need to first, once again, go over why humans can only see the past and how we can gain the 5D power to do the impossible. So I want you to remember back to some previous videos where I have talked about how time works. And in order to understand how time works, we have to understand that we are three-dimensional beings, human beings. We are actually just projections. Our physical body, our physical world that we interact with is actually a projection onto a three-dimensional screen. And so time has a very specific property in the third dimension that it doesn't have in other dimensions. In the third dimension, we experience time as going from past to future. And if you haven't already noticed, you can only see the past. You can't see the future. You think you can see the present. But really what's happening is every moment that you experience in your three-dimensional mind and body, your three-dimensional eyes, is actually just a memory. It's something that's already happened and you are remembering it. So we're going to be talking about how time really works and how you can access this. Because since you're not just a three-dimensional physical being, you are more than that. You are an infinite spirit soul in a three-dimensional experience. Therefore, you have access to all of the dimensions and you have access to all of time. In fact, you have the ability to create your reality. This is the whole reason you came here, so that you could remember that. But we first have to understand how time works in the third dimension. So I need you to stay tuned because, again, I do have lists that are gonna keep me on track. I won't babble on forever. I'm gonna give you specific understandings and actions that you can take so that you can shift your understanding. What I'm gonna teach you how to do is how to see in the future, right? I mean, we can only see the past, so we feel as though we can't do anything. But people say, if I had a time machine, I'd go into the future and then I'd see what was going to happen, then I'd come back, right? So I'm going to give you that time machine. And I guarantee you, if you understand the concepts I'm going to give you and you take the actions I'm going to teach you, you will have the same results as somebody who went forward in time and then figured out the perfect way to function in reality. In fact, it's even better than having a time machine that goes into the future. So before we get into that, the first thing I need you to do, if you're new to this channel, number one, I need you to subscribe, like, and comment so that more and more people will find these videos. I need you to go to the playlists section on the thunderwizard.com YouTube page. I need you to click on the following playlists: the Maoshan Qigong, the Interdimensional Meditation, and the 12 Steps to 5D. Each one of those playlists has very important, free, powerful knowledge and exercises that you must do if you want to gain what this channel has to give you. I need you to do at least one thing from at least one of those playlists every day. If you don't, then all it is a bunch of talk. It's going to bounce off the top of your head. Maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't, but the way to ensure that these things will help you is if you follow my instructions. And then what I need you to do is I need you to go to thunderwizard.com. That is the website. I need you to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, because there I get into very specific, very powerful tools. In fact, I just uploaded probably the most powerful guided meditation I've ever put together. There's more stuff on the way, which I'm going to be uploading to the 90-day challenge. So if you've been waiting, now's the time. Trust me, I get emails every day. People contacting me, telling me that they've been doing the practices on the 90-day challenge. They've been doing the practices that I teach, and they're having experiences they never thought possible. They're able to take control of their life and accomplish things they never thought possible. So I'm not making this stuff up, and the only way you're going to know about it is if you actually subscribe and do the practices. But you know, if you're 10 years old and you live at home and you're just unable to, you know, pull out a few dollars for your own investing in yourself, no problem. The playlists, those 3 that I gave you, are free, and all of the practices there are free, and everything I teach you here today is going to be free. You're going to leave with something that you can do something with. All right, so how to see into the future and create your 5D destiny. Why do 3D humans only see their past? Let me explain that to you. So again, over a year and a half ago, I made conscious contact with higher dimensional beings of light who told me all kinds of stuff, which I've written about in 2 books. Extraterrestrials are coming to Earth, and and interdimensional revolution. In those books, I go into detail what these higher dimensional beings showed me, told me about reality, the future, dimensions, all of that. One of the things that they showed me was how time works in the 3rd dimension. And it's very different from what we think is going on. What we think is going on is that time flows from past to future. But it doesn't. And we think we're looking forward. We're not. We're actually looking backwards. So what they showed me was, imagine that you're standing on a beach ball. Now, in order to stand on a beach ball, if it's rolling, you have to keep moving, right? So imagine it's rolling backwards and it's in one spot, just rolling backwards, and you are walking forward. Now, you think you're moving forward, but you're not. You're staying in one place. It means that you're staying in one moment. You're always constantly in the present. The past is a memory, the future is a guess, or a worry, or a hope. So all you experience is the present, and that's you walking, thinking you're moving forward in time, and you're staying in one spot. We live inside a box. This box is called the 3rd dimension. It has up, down, left, right, a diagonal. Those are the only combination of movements that we can make. Now, in the 3rd dimension, we are extremely limited. We can only be in one specific location, in one point in time, in one timeline, experiencing one present moment. That is never going to change. So that's what's happening when you're walking on the beach ball, going nowhere, thinking you're moving forward. Now, you think you're looking forward, right? You think you're walking into the future from past to future. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that time is moving through you backwards. So the future's actually behind you. And as you move, time is moving through you this way. And so what ends up happening is that behind you is the future. And this future has not been solidified into anything. It is pure potential. Now, we think it's not potential. We think it's a real thing that's being created or has been created, or there's a thing called destiny. We think there are specific timelines and that we can jump from one timeline to the next. And that's an okay, if that helps you, you can look at it that way. But what's really happening is that there's like this fog behind you. And it's all of the potential chemicals, it's the energy. It's nothing specific yet. It's just sort of swirling behind you. Now, what ends up happening is that without realizing it, because you are a creator, you have programmed emotions, you have programmed assumptions, and I'm going to be giving you the assumptions that you need to believe in. You don't have to accept them now if you want, but if you accept them and take action on them, it's going to it'll create your perfect future if you let it. But you've been programmed with certain beliefs, like there's destiny, there's a thing like God's will, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that, this happens to me, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm bad at, the world is like this, I believe in God, or I believe in the devil, or I believe in Buddha, or I believe in false beings of light, or whatever you believe in. These are your beliefs. All of those beliefs and your programmed reactions to what you think you need to do to survive is all inside your unconscious mind. Now, these things are playing out. They're sending out frequencies. It's like a tape that's being played all the time, 24/7 in your unconscious. You're completely clueless about it. Sometimes you can hear and feel your thoughts. You can sometimes feel your emotions. You can, know you're upset about this or sad about that or frightened about this or happy about that. You can sometimes experience them, but for the most part, they're happening completely underneath your awareness in the unconscious. And the unconscious is playing this like on a megaphone. My name is so-and-so, and I am good at this, and I deserve this, and the world does this, and those things, people do that, and this is good, and that is bad. And this empty, swirling mass of cloud behind you goes, oh, okay, so I'll create that. It creates it. And then as it passes through you, you experience it. Now, just because you're experiencing it doesn't mean that it has now been set into stone. It's sort of like, how about if I do this as it passes through you? Your response, yes, that's good. No, that's bad. I deserve this. This is supposed to happen. It finalizes and creates it. Then it passes in front of you. It's already happened. You've already responded to it. You've already put the finishing touches to what you commanded it to do. And then the third dimension gives you this picture, like a painting, and says, there you go. And then it passes in front of you. You think that this is the present moment. As it passes in front of you, you think it's happening right now. But it hasn't. It already took place. It's already over. You can't change it. You then have another emotional reaction to that. You either like it, you dislike it, it makes you feel empowered, it makes you feel weak, it gives you some kind of feeling, you have a reaction, you then create another belief, you have another response, which sends the message back to the cloud, and it creates another moment, continuously happening as you're walking along in the present moment, thinking that you're moving through time. But all you're doing is you're standing on this moving ball, creating reality every single moment based on your unconscious assumptions, beliefs, reactions, attachments, decisions. Got it? So once this reality has passed in front of you, it's now a third dimensional picture. It's now a third dimensional projection. It's now a third dimensional fixed reality. That's where you live. And so you're doing things backwards. Because then you think, oh, I have to react to this and change it. You can't change it. It's already happened. It's already been made. It's already been done. There's nothing you can do about it. So the idea is, what if you could turn yourself around and look into the future and create that. In order to do that, it means you have to be in a position where you're not reacting to anything. It means you have to come from a position of emptiness. You have to come from a position of, I'm going to decide in this moment who I am. If you already know who you are, even if you were able to see in the future, if you're still being programmed by the unconscious programming, you wouldn't be able to help yourself. You'd still create stuff. This is therapy by itself. Don't get me wrong, I like therapy along with the 12 steps to 5D. The two of those together are bulletproof. But therapy by itself, in my observation and in my experience, is you with a mirror, you're sort of looking ahead and looking into the past, and you go, oh, that's why, because I'm my mom this and my mom that. Oh, you know what I need? I need to find a man who will love me for who I am and not treat me like an object. But these men still keep showing up treating you like an object. So that's because you're still in the third dimension. You're not able to change the projection that is being created from your unconscious. So what we want to be able to do is turn around, be able to see into the future, and then have no identity or attachment. We only want to have the desire of our soul instead of our three-dimensional human character avatar that we've created. Got it? All right, so keep that in there, and then we'll now take a look at how we do this. So very quickly, how do 3D timelines, how are they manifested? All timelines exist simultaneously in the quantum field. Unconscious 3D mind chooses timeline to manifest. Chosen timeline is projected from quantum field onto the third dimensional screen. Unconscious 3D mind continuously projects chosen timeline, creating your fate or karma. Unless the pineal gland is activated, these negative karmic timelines are continuously projected from the unconscious 3D survival programs. Do me a favor, don't ask questions until after I've finished with the lecture. If you're asking questions now, you're not listening. So take this in. You can't be asking questions and listening at the same time. Got me? All right. So that's how 3D is created. How to see into the future and create your new 5D destiny. Here's the assumption we need to accept. If you don't accept this assumption, understand, assumption is a choice. That's all. You can choose any other assumption you want, but your assumptions will dictate your unconscious reactions to programming. It'll dictate how you react to reality as it comes to you, and it will control your actions. So assumptions are very important. So for now, I want you to adopt this assumption. You can throw it away and go back to whatever your assumption was before later if you want. So the assumption is that your soul is infinite creator God, projected into a 3D human body. This is very important. The assumption of the third dimension, as is with religion, is that you are a created, limited being. And everything about you has been created. God made me this way, people say. I can't help it. That's who I am. So we believe we are these three-dimensional creatures that have been created and put into this three-dimensional thing. And it is our job to please the Creator. Those are all assumptions. Now, they work well in the third dimension. In fact, it is a very powerful way to hypnotize you into the third dimensional frequency. What I'm teaching you how to do is to get out of that frequency and be a multi-frequency being. You can shift into whatever frequency you want. Other beings do this all the time. Sasquatch does this. The fairies, light beings, extraterrestrials who've been around for millions and billions of years, their specific civilizations have understood this and shifted themselves. Human beings are just now getting to the place where they're ready to shift and become multi-frequency beings. So if you change your assumption, that can also, well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't, maybe it definitely changes your frequency. So here's the assumption. Your soul is an infinite creator God projected into a 3D human body. It means infinite, multi-dimensional perfection. Omnipotent. Has been quantum folded into a tiny little spot which resides right here in your chest. And that is called your soul. Now, just because your soul is in a three-dimensional body doesn't mean that it's limited to the third dimension unless you decide that you're going to be a limited three-dimensional being. Religion is good, because what I just said would be blasphemy. If I walked into a Christian church and I said, God isn't out there. God doesn't have a plan for you. God, as you understand him, doesn't exist. I'm God, and I've been quantum enfolded inside this human being. I create reality. I created everything you see. If I were to come in and say that, they would, if this were hundreds of years ago, I know because it happened to me. It happened to me hundreds of years ago in the Middle Ages, I remember it. They will kill you for that. So it's an assumption. You can choose to believe it or not believe it, but choosing to believe it will completely change your frequency. You may not understand it, it may frighten you, you may feel guilty, you may feel evil or bad. Those are just all reactions. Because if it's not true, it doesn't mean anything. If what I just said isn't true, that your soul is an infinite creator God projected into a 3D human body, if that's not true, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. You won't have any effect on reality if that's not true. But if it is true, the only way you'll know that is if you adopt that assumption. You don't have to believe it. You just have to act on it. This is how assumptions work. You act on the assumption. If you believe that you can fly and you adopt that assumption and you step off a cliff, if that assumption isn't accurate, you're going to fall to your death. So you got nothing to lose by adopting this assumption. Your soul is an infinite creator God projected into a 3D human body. Since that's the case, the universe must obey everything that God commands. Right? So sit with that for a moment. If you are poor, if you are unhealthy, if you are miserable, like you're one of many people who say, I can't afford the measly few dollars to subscribe to the 90-day challenge. You don't believe what I just said. A thought, an intellectual thought sitting in your mind means nothing. If I say to you, your God and the universe must obey everything you command, if you go, oh, that's interesting, it's meaningless. Because you have to take action on it. You have to take action on it as though it's true. You don't have to believe something to act on it. So, that makes sense, right? You are the creator of this universe. That means all of the molecules, all of the energy, all of the matter, all of the consciousness within this physical reality. When you show up and you walk into the room, all of the matter in the room says God is here. Have you ever noticed something? I noticed this after my mother moved out of the house that I grew up in. I was already an adult. But she sold the house, and she lived there throughout my whole life, decades. It was built in the 1950s, and we moved there after I was born in the early 60s. And so for decades, she lived in that house, long after I moved out. And within a couple of weeks, after moving out, I went back in and walked through the house. The house started falling apart. Windows started cracking and crashing, and everything just started falling apart. Because there wasn't any creator gods walking around in the house keeping it alive. You keep everything alive just by your presence. So you are the reason all of this physical matter exists, and it looks to you to fulfill whatever purpose you demand from it. Most people demand that the universe abuses them. That's why they're sick. That's why they're miserable. That's why they're in pain. That's why it's because you're telling the universe to do that to you on an unconscious level. Of course, you're completely unaware of it. But you also have the assumption that you're a tiny little created being. You don't have any worth in yourself. You have to earn your worth and your love. You believe that and you act on it. And so by telling the universe, I'm not really God, I'm a piece of garbage. You just need to, throw things at me. And the universe says, whatever you say, Your Highness, and starts throwing stuff at you. The universe doesn't know that you don't understand. The universe doesn't know that you've lost your mind. It has to give you whatever you command it to give you. So the universe must obey everything that God commands. The 3D human mind can only see the past. We've already talked about that. So in the third dimension, you're just seeing what you've already unconsciously created as it passes through you, and then you have an experience. It's like going to the theaters, like going to the movies. That's all that's happening here. The 3D experience is only a memory of the past. We talked about that. Every moment you experience, you think it's right now, but it's already happened. And the crazy part is you're having an emotional reaction to something that already happened. If you're watching a movie, you know you're doing that, and you're choosing to have an emotional reaction to a story that's being put up on the screen, and it's already been played out, and it doesn't really exist. It's just a story. And that's the truth of your life. It's a story. You have an emotional reaction as though it's real. It's not. 3D human projection. Trying to change the past creates frustration, stress, and disease. This is extremely important. So the past gets created, you see it, you have an emotional reaction, you then try and interact with it, meaning you try and control your life. So being angry, for example, is trying to change reality. Being sad is trying to change reality. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't have and acknowledge your feelings. You should. The conscious person then, once they have their feelings and acknowledges their feelings, which is their reaction to whatever they've experienced, they then have the consciousness to know what actions to take which will be beneficial to them and to others. The animals in the third dimension don't know how to do that. They only know how to react to things. I talked about this yesterday. I remember a dog that my roommate owned when I was in college, and if you stuck your face down next to her bowl, she would growl and snap at you. And then if you got up and sat down, she'd come over and apologize. She knew that you weren't somebody she was supposed to attack. She didn't want to do it. She couldn't help herself. She just reacts. So having anger, having sadness, all that doesn't mean you have to react to it. But if you don't have the feelings, they will control you. If you pretend you're not angry, if you pretend you're not sad, they will then go deeper into your unconscious, create all kinds of things back here, and will control your actions from then on. So the 3D human projection trying to change the past, which you think is the present, creates frustration, stress, and disease. It releases all kinds of survival chemicals. It's amazing. We just went through a whole scenario with the pandemic and illness and all of that. My understanding of how the immune system works has completely changed. And without getting into any specifics, what I can tell you is that if you are in the state that I'm going to teach you how to get into, which is to actually live in creating the future and then experiencing it, you will reduce so much stress in your physical body that your body will be able to create far more immunity than normal. I mean, we all know this. When people are under stress, their immune system shuts down. The immune system shutting down, the digestion shutting down, that happens when your life is on the line, like you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, or something that you have to deal with in the moment to save your life. And as I found out, the human body only has 3 fears built into it. Now, how many things are you afraid of? A lot more than 3. I'm sure of that. You spend time worrying about the future, about things like that don't exist, like money, prestige, property. These things don't really exist, but you worry about them. But the only fears that human beings are born with is the fear of falling, the fear of fast-moving objects, and the fear of loud noises. In each one of those scenarios, a split-second action gets rid of the danger. If you're going to fall off a cliff, step back. Danger's gone. The stress that you were under in that split second, all those chemicals that make you more aware and focused in the 3D, and that's over. It's over within a second. If you there's been a lot of times I've almost fallen off things. Have you ever thought about that days, weeks, or months later? Yeah, I just can't stop thinking about when I almost stepped off the side of that cliff last week. No, you stepped back, you saved yourself, problem solved. The fear of fast-moving objects, just get out of the way. Problem solved. The fear of loud noises, kablamo! Once the noise is over and you don't have to do anything like suddenly move to get out of the way or run away from the roaring lion, once the noise is over and the danger isn't there, the fear disappears. The stress immediately disappears. Your body is not created to be under stress for days, weeks, months, years at a time. When that happens, you are incapable of being anywhere except in a reaction state to the past that's just happened. And when you're in that state, you lose all of your energy. The energy from higher dimensions can't get to you, and you begin to lose your life force, and you begin to slowly die. And we call that disease. All right, so 3D human projection trying to change past, which you perceive as the present, creates frustration, stress, and disease. The only way the 3D human can change karmic destiny is by traveling to the future and consciously creating the desired reality 3D experience. You can't do that in the third dimension. The third dimension is a screen, just like a movie screen, just like your TV screen. It is something happening that you can't do anything about. Even this, you're watching me right now, there's a delay. So whatever it is you see me doing, I've already done. It's already over. You can't respond to that. It's amazing. People, usually people who've been born in the internet age, and they watch a video, a video that's an hour long. And they'll hear one sentence that they respond to, and they'll write comments like, "No, it doesn't." And I'll go, how am I supposed to know what the hell you're talking about? What do you mean, no, it doesn't? You're responding to the title. I mean, because people are so wrapped up in their self-absorbed momentary reaction, and their narcissism makes them think that you know and are with them in that moment. This is what it's like being a 3D person trying to react to the screen of reality that's already happened. It's over. You don't have any power to change that. The only thing you have power to do is to create a new future. Now, in order to create a new future, you have to completely become a different person. So you can't simply respond from the programmed assumptions, attachments, and reactions that you have been trained and you have trained yourself to do in order to deal with 3D reality. You cannot go to the future in that state. It's not possible. You can only see with your physical eyes the past. You can't see the present or the future. So we do have an organ that is called the third eye. That can see into the future. And so the only way to do that is by activating it. The only way 3D humans can change their karmic destiny, which is another way of saying your programmed assumptions, projections, and reactions, is by traveling to the future and consciously creating a desired reality 3D experience. So, how to see into the future and create 5D destinies, list number 2. The future has not happened and can change at any moment. The 3D mind cannot travel to the future because 3D eyes cannot see the future. An activated pineal gland, the third eye, can see 5D future that the mind imagines in the quantum field. So again, I encourage you to get rid of any ideas you have about fixed timelines, because that carries the assumption that the future has already happened and that it's a solid experience that's going to move towards you, like the weather, things like that. Anyway, I don't want to get out of the subject. So if you can understand that the only thing that exists in your experience is the past that you've created, and you understand the future is completely unwritten. As I've said, according to physics, it is inevitable that this bottle of kombucha cola is going to disappear and reappear instantly on the surface of the moon. That is a definite reality that will happen, but the probability of it is so low that it would take so long that the universe will not exist long enough for that probability to happen. So for all intents and purposes, it is impossible that this cola bottle will disappear and appear on the moon. We live in a probability. So you have these probabilities, infinite numbers of them floating around back here. Your unconscious assumptions, projections, and programming limits the amount of probabilities that you can manifest. And the more emotionally attached you are to negative realities, that probability gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then the only thing you can create is when you're going to create a problem, when you're going to get sick, when you're going to be miserable. So in order for you to experience all of the potential possibilities floating around back here, you have to wipe your slate clean. This is what meditation is about. This is why Buddhism is all about that. Buddhism is about that empty mind. This is, Zazen, meaning getting to that cha'an in Chinese, that emptiness. That's why Taoists, the first thing I learned in spirit fighting, they said that You go from nothing to something back to nothing. They said the goal is to become nothing. And when you're nothing, paya, then they could, then you can knock people out with your fingernail, because you now, as you don't have any, you're not trapped in anything. Now pure energy can come through you and you can just use intent. Well, the same is true in your creation. So you have to die to who you think you are. Because remember what we said in the beginning. Your soul is an infinite creator God projected into a 3D human body. You don't have a tiny little identity. That's something that you've chosen, or that has been sort of projected onto you after karmic lifetimes or whatever, or your soul wanted to experience in this life, but you're not defined by anything. The only thing that is your true essence, I want you to listen to me very carefully. The only thing that is your true essence is the desire within your soul. Everything else is made up nonsense that can be changed, discarded, and transformed. The one thing you cannot run from, the one thing you cannot change, is the desires that your soul has. So the problem is when your created avatar personality beliefs are in direct conflict with the desires of your soul. If your soul wants to be a unicorn and you tell yourself that unicorns can't exist, you are going to be in a lot of pain. You are going to take actions that go directly against your soul, which is doing something impossible as far as you know. But remember, your soul is multidimensional. So if you like the idea of being a unicorn, there is a dimension where you are a unicorn. Period. End of story. Question is, can you bring that dimensional probability into a fixed third dimensional reality? Now, I've been doing this work for a long time, and everybody that I work with, I help them find out what their soul desire is. When it comes down to it, their soul desire is never something that can't be experienced in the third dimension. When I tell them that they can be anything, and I mean that, you want to be 10 foot tall with 20 heads and wings, you have to allow yourself that. They always end up, when they're given complete freedom, they always end up being something that is fully, completely attainable in the third dimension. But they don't think it's possible. They don't think they're allowed to. They don't think they're supposed to. So, the future hasn't happened yet and can change at any moment. Your 3D mind cannot travel to the future. Your 3D eyes cannot see the future. An activated pineal gland, the third eye, can see 5D future that the mind imagines in the quantum field. So this is where the Huar breath mantra comes in. That is my chosen technique to transform into the fifth dimension and to travel to the fifth dimension. I ride on that Huar, what you're hearing in the background. And we will talk about exactly what that Huar mantra is and how to do that later. But that is what I do. That takes me to the third dimension. It simultaneously wipes away my 3D attachments to my personality, my identity, my programming. It gets rid of that, connects me directly to my soul, which then allows me to then, it activates the pineal gland, which then acts as a transceiver. It allows me to go to the quantum field, and it allows me then to know what my soul wants. And I actively imagine and go into deep fantasy so much so that I allow myself to become emotionally invested in what my soul wants. And then what ends up happening, here's what the mind is designed for. There have been experiments done. I remember hearing about this in college as an actor. And you tell actors this and it helps them imagine their character better. But I learned that the nervous system, which includes the emotions, which includes the mind, the nervous system and the body do not know the difference between an imagined reality and an actual reality. So when you sit around worrying about the future, or when you sit around replaying negative experiences from the past, your mind, your emotions, your brain, and your nervous system re-experience them as though they're happening right now in the future. That's why it creates all kinds of negative chemicals and hormones and creates disease in the body. So having said that, I know that if you've been abused, if you've been hurt, if you've been damaged, you can't just pretend that didn't happen, which is why you need to go do the 12 steps to 5D, especially step 4. If you don't do the 12 steps to 5D, it's going to be a lot more challenging for you to erase all the programming. But when you do the 4th step, specifically steps 4 through 9, when you do those, you actually wipe away that experience. And so if you remember it, it doesn't create the emotions, doesn't bring you back into it and relive it. But if you don't do that, my experience is it's virtually impossible to get out of that. And I'm here to tell you that's why most of you are stuck. Most of you watching my channel, let's just to show you how distorted your thinking might be. You're watching this channel because you think I have some knowledge that is valuable to you. And yet, you pick and choose what things you want to do and what things you don't want to do. And I'm telling you, there are things that I've had to do to get to where I am. And if you want what I have, you've got to do what I do. So those of you who are bypassing, because I can see the views. The views on the 12 steps to 5D are almost nothing. The views on, are evil aliens coming to suck my brains out, the views go through the roof. So I know that there are far less people doing the 12 steps to 5D, but you might be doing some of the meditation. You might be doing some of the Qigong. I'm here to tell you unequivocally that if you want to escape your addiction to the 3rd dimension and shift to the 5D, I know no other practice more powerful to shift and change the brain waves and change your nervous system reactions than by doing the 12 steps to 5D. So I recommend that you do that. All right, I got off topic. What was I talking about? So the activated pineal gland can see the 5D future that the mind imagines in the quantum field. After being imagined in the quantum field, this new probability is created and subsequently projected onto the screen of the 3rd dimension. Now just because, you do this all the time. So the truth is that people do fantasize about positive things. So what is it that creates the positive and the negative? And the way that I like to describe this is, again, what do they call that? Anyway, when you do positive affirmations, right? So people think that positive affirmations will change your life. If you sit on the edge of your bed and you tell yourself, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm prosperous, I'm not saying that doesn't work. What I am saying is that your unconscious mind, remember, already has assumptions that you learned, that you adopted because you thought that's what you needed to do to survive. And those programs are running continuously on a bullhorn into that field behind you as it comes through. So that is going 24/7. It's being blasted at, the highest decibel rate possible energetically. You sitting on the edge of your bed saying, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm confident, it's barely eking out a few decibels. It can't compete with the unconscious projection that's going on completely outside of your conscious control. So the 12 steps to 5D is the way to get in there and destroy that and give you more and more ability to consciously decide what you're projecting. That's why so many people go to the, what is that thing called again? The Secret, you know what I'm talking about. Where if you emote strongly enough, the law of attraction, sorry. That's why people go to all these law of attraction seminars and they're told, if you just think positive about whatever it is that you want, fall in love with money, and just think about how much you love money, then money will be attracted to that and come to you. That's not the way it works. It's not like that thing is just out there. It's a physical thing out there looking to get attracted to you. And it doesn't work because if your programming has told you you don't deserve money, you can't just override that with a few positive affirmations. Even if you sit on the edge of your bed for 5 hours, the moment, that your unconscious programming has been actively working against that this whole 5 hours. And the moment you stop because you have to eat or go to the bathroom or, God forbid, go to sleep, then the unconscious 100% wipes away whatever positive thing you were trying to get attracted to. That's why it only works. You go to the seminars, it works for a couple of weeks and it stops working. But all those other people are talking about how great it is, and then you have more shame, which just creates more negativity and doubt, and then now you can't make anything happen. So your pineal gland can see the future, and the mind imagines that in the quantum field. After being imagined in the quantum field, the new probability is created and then projected onto 3D. And the point I'm trying to make here is that it hasn't completely been cemented yet. You've now selected a reality and it's making its way to you. You're about to experience it. You can nullify that. Many people do. And you watch people do this all the time. It's called self-sabotage. They sabotage reality as it comes to them. They'll get what they want and they'll sabotage it, or worse yet, they won't even see it. Or sometimes they get what they want and it threatens them and they destroy it. They consciously destroy it. So you have to do the work to clean things up. Now, there's a way to deal with this because nobody can do this perfectly. It's not possible. It's not possible to be human and completely empty your unconscious, because if you're able to do that, you'd shift out of 3D altogether. So there's a way around this, and I'm gonna share that with you. But anyway, so after being imagined in the quantum field, new reality is created and then projected onto the 3D. The 3D human must take actions in the third dimensional present, as though the 5D reality has already arrived, in order to complete the 3D manifestation process. This is where the law of attraction fails miserably. This is why the law of attraction is so popular. Because the law of attraction, there's even videos of the law of attraction that say, you're not supposed to work for it. You don't need to take action. All you have to do is feel it and it'll come to you. In fact, you shouldn't do anything. There's videos telling you don't take actions on what you want. That'll go against it. I've had students who stopped working with me, who quit working with me because I was telling them they have to take certain actions after us talking about what they want. You have to take these actions in order to manifest it. And they've told me, I don't want to do that. I just want to sit around and feel good about it and wait for it to come. And I said, it doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. It's not going to work that way for you. I mean, if it does, my hair is off to you, but I don't think that's going to work. And then they stop working with me because they don't want to do the work. And I'll tell you why. Because we do live in a 3D projected reality. And the way that you cement the probability as it's coming towards you, the way that you cement it is through your physical actions. Especially physical actions that go contrary to your perceived resources and go beyond your emotions, your fears. You know, there's somebody I know who's in a huge amount of pain right now. It's nobody listening to me now. Somebody I know is in a huge amount of pain. And it's because they have an idea of how the world should work. They believe that people should just know when this person wants love. They desperately want love, but they can't ask for it. And that's them saying it. I don't believe they can. In fact, the reason why this person's so angry with me is I said, you can ask for it, so you should just ask for it. Ask people for it. It says, I can't do that. And F you for telling me that I can, because I can't. But what this person wants to do instead is to demand that everybody else psychically know what they want and then just give it to them without this person having to ask for it. So the solution I would give is to change your assumption, which is to believe that you can do it, which has nothing to do with how you feel, by the way. What this person is doing is conflating their feelings with their ability. You feel like you can't do something doesn't mean that you can't do it. You just will be afraid of it. You won't like it. That's okay. That's just a feeling. That's old 3D mind emotional reactions. They mean nothing in the fifth dimension. So you take actions as though even if you don't want to do it, even if it's not easy, even if it's not fun, even if it feels like it's killing you, you take action anyway, as though you already have this thing you've imagined. You take action even though you can't see the physical resources. So if there's something you want a new surfboard, you've decided that your soul, this is me talking, you've decided that your soul has said that I want to surf these kinds of waves and I need this kind of surfboard, and you're not aware that you have the resources, you go and get it. You go and buy it on credit. You get a credit card, you do whatever, you get that thing. You take the action even though the resources aren't there. And then you go out and you use it. You learn how to use it. You start that business. You start making those videos. You start studying that course. You start creating that new thing. Should I share this? I've shared it a bunch of times. As the saddest experience I've had with a client wanting to know their perfect career. You can get that at career.thunderwizard.com. Scroll to the bottom and you can get a session with me. And I'm always able to, within an hour, I'm always able to find out what their soul desire is. I just know what questions to ask, and they always end up telling me whether they realize it or not. I say, here's what your soul desire is. This is what you just said. Here's what it is. And they go, oh my God, that's what I want. And then they'll tell me, yeah, I want this and I want this and I want this. And then I'll say, okay, so now you got to go do it. Well, I can't. What do you mean you can't? Well, I don't have the money. Who said anything about money? Well, I'm too old. Well, I don't have the resources. No, I need to make the money first so I can have the time to then go do it. I said, that's not how it works. Your God, the universe is here to obey you. If you act contrary to what your soul, God, is telling you to do, the universe is going to rebel against you. This is important. I just got a huge energy jolt as I said that. If you take actions contrary to what your soul, God, has told you to do, the universe will rebel against you. The universe will not recognize your deityhood if you are acting contrary to what God is telling you to do, your soul. And let's be clear, God is going to tell you to do things that are revolutionary, completely outside of your 3D abilities and awareness, or completely outside of your programmed, accepted reality. You are going to have to act on that. When you do, even though you don't have the money, you don't have the resources, you don't want to do it, you don't feel like you can do it, you think people are going to attack you for doing it, if you act on it based on knowing what your soul wants, the entire universe surrounds you and starts throwing at you all of the resources you need, but it's waiting for you to act. So as God, there are 2 steps to commanding the universe. The first one is, well, let's say 3 steps. The first one is finding out what your soul wants. Sometimes you can do that in meditation, you'll become aware. But sometimes you can become aware before you go into the quantum field meditation. Finding out what your soul wants. Going into the quantum field, using a technique which activates the pineal gland and gets you in there and gets you into the future. And then you, with your emotions, you create that thing you really love. That starts the process. And then the third part of the process is the physical material reality is waiting for you to say, okay, go. And that happens when you take action as though you have what you want, as though you have the resources for what you want. You invest the $1 million you don't have in that thing you're supposed to do, and the universe goes, okay, let's go. They need $2 million because they just paid $1 million and they need another $1 million to pay the interest and the taxes. And that's how it works every time. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the verge of, homelessness. And everything around me, including all the people around me, are telling me, you've got to do this, you got to do that. And I say, no, I'm going to do what my soul is telling me to do. And every single time the resources show up. In the beginning, it was showing up like the cavalry, at the last minute. But now, I've gotten so comfortable with understanding what I want that the resources show up, much earlier now. And I'll share one other experience I had, because I learned this intuitively. I learned that all I had to do was just become consciously aware of what I truly wanted. And once I became aware, and sometimes I'd spend days walking up and down the beach going, what is it that I really want? And then once I became aware, which meant I went past my unconscious resistance towards it. Once I became consciously aware and I accepted it and acknowledged it, I knew that I was going to have it. Because it was just assumed I was going to take actions as though I already had it. But I hadn't really formulated all this. I just intuitively knew how to do this. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. And we were out to lunch. And I was complaining because I didn't like where I lived and I didn't like what was going on and stuff. And I was complaining about it. And she said something along the lines of you're complaining a lot. And I went, you're right. I said, you know what I need to do? I need to just own what it is that I want. And that's what I'm not doing. I'm trying to stick with something I don't want, and it's not working. And I said, let's see, what I want is this, and I want that, and I want this. And those were things that were impossible for me to have based on the resources I had at the moment. But I knew. So I said, no, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Okay. And then I left it alone, and we started talking. She said, you're not normal. I said, what do you mean? She says, you're not human. I said, what are you talking about? She says, you don't understand. Most people can't do that. I said, do what? She said, you just decide what you want and then it happens. She says, that's not how most people function. And I went, I hadn't thought about it before. But it's actually what happens. You become aware of what you want. You own it, which means you don't indulge in the I can't, I don't deserve it, I don't have the money, I don't have time, I need to work. You don't do any of that. You go, oh, that's what I want. Okay, I'm going to go get it. And you just assume. I've told you guys this story a million times. There was an apartment I wanted to live in, which was on the beach, and I couldn't afford it. And I went in, I decided that's where I wanted to live, and I walked in and I applied for it thinking I was going to get rejected. And the guy says, asked me some questions, and I think I lied. And I'm not saying lie, but he said, you know what, I'm not even going to do a credit check. I'll just give it to you. Give me X amount of money next week and it's yours. And magically, thousands of dollars showed up, and I was able to put the deposit down. And then magically my income changed overnight and I was able to afford it. That's how this works. So, after being imagined in the quantum field, the new reality is created and then projected on the third dimension. The 3D human must take actions in the third dimensional present, as though the 5D reality has already arrived in order to complete the manifestation process. You went into a quantum field, you picked a probability, it's now starting to form in the present, and then you take actions as though you already have it, and then that solidifies it. It now cements it, and your experience is it's happening right now. But it already happened back here. All right, so so the next thing that I want to talk to you about is doing the Huar mantra to achieve all of that. So this is a very special tool. And I'm just now truly releasing it. I've been playing it in the background. You guys have been able to hear it and chant it. And now you know what it means. So this mantra, Huar, Hu means the best of the third dimensional reality. And Ar means fifth dimensional possibility. And chanting this, Huar, shifts your 3D reality into a 5D reality. It changes the frequency of the third dimensional vibration. It changes the frequency of your soul. It changes the frequency of your physical body, your cells. The ultimate goal of this is to shift you so that your reality completely changes. And this is when the ascension will come. It will come because we have shifted our frequency. And there's no doubt in my mind that, if this mantra had been given thousands of years ago, because to my knowledge, I'm the only person that this has been given to. This is a new creation. But if this had been given thousands of years ago, and human beings had thousands of years to meditate, practice, and experiment with it, there's no doubt in my mind that there would have been stories of people who had chanted it and disappeared. The Taoists talk about this all the time. The Maoshan Taoists, the 3 Ones meditation, that's another technique. It's here in the 90-day challenge. Thousands of years ago, these Taoist monks would go and do the 3 ones meditation. And the promise is, when you're able to do this certain thing, completely, then a chariot will descend and you will be taken up to the highest heaven in the full light of day, which is a very poetic way of saying that you will disappear. If you're standing next to somebody who masters this, they will disappear out of the 3rd dimension. And you won't see them anymore, unless they choose to come back and let you see them. This is what this mantra will do. This is my belief. In the meantime, what we can do is we can change not only our inner reality, but our outer reality. And the question of whether or not we changed reality or whether we shifted to another one, that's a debate we can have for thousands of years. It's a mantra that will stimulate the 3rd eye and the pineal gland, which is the transceiver to the 5th dimension. So if you don't know how to do that, you now have a tool. I'm giving it to you for free. It is yours. Use it. So the guided meditation is at the thunderwizard.com Warrior 90-Day Challenge. But if you don't want to do that, you're 10 years old and you can't afford to buy yourself a pack of gum, then here's how you do it. You begin with energy practice. If you know the Maoshan 5 element forms, which can be found here at 923.thunderwizard.com, that's the most powerful. You can start with those, but that's okay. You can go to the Qigong folder and do the Heaven Earth Qigong meditation for 1 to 3 rounds. That's free, available to everybody. The Huul breath is also available to everybody. Just type in HUUL breath into YouTube and you'll see the specific technique. You need to learn that technique if you want to get the most out of the Huar breath. It's not just a mantra, it's a breath. There's a specific way of chanting it. I teach you how to do that in the Huul breath. So use that same technique, but change the sound from Huul to Huar. That's one way you can do it. It's done, you can do it in the Huul breath posture. And then whether you're seated or whether you're standing in the Huul breath posture, begin the silent Huar breath. You do that by inhaling, bringing 5D energy down through your crown into your heart. You exhale, and on the Hu sound, you send energy into the earth, and on the Ar sound, you send energy out the crown. On the Ar sound, imagine unzipping your 3D body and allowing the 5D body to fly up into the 5th dimensional realm. You don't have to follow that. This isn't a dogmatic thing. Experiment with it. Do, what works for you. It's always best to follow directions, and if you are learning how to follow my directions and it's challenging for you, it's probably because there's some resistance psychologically, mentally, that your body is resisting. That's okay. Learn how to work through the discomfort, learn how to stay neutral, and let that posture open up the power for you. All right, so there we go. All right, so again, people were throwing questions at me. I don't suggest you ask me questions until I'm done, because more than likely I will answer your question. Again, you can't listen and ask at the same time. Having said that, there are some questions here. And bear in mind, if you're not doing the practices, so if you're subscribed to the 90-Day Challenge and you're doing the practices, if you've read my books, if you've spent time watching and doing what I teach, most of these questions will disappear. Because most of the time people are asking from their fear, they're asking from their intellect, from their ignorance, and they think that if they know something ahead of time that will somehow help them. And the point I'm trying to make is that those questions tend not to work. They tend to annoy me, and I will point out to you your unconscious resistance, and you may not like it. A true question is a question that comes from an emotional desire to solve a problem. Asking me, questions about, do I agree with this? What are my thoughts on such and such? Those are lazy questions. They're not coming from any real desire to have me help you. I want to help you. So if you start throwing these intellectualized, questions, I'm going to point it out to you. Again, the longer you stay on the channel, the more that you do the work, the more likely you are to learn how to ask questions that I'm going to respond to positively. All right, having said that. Question, is it permissible to adjust the energy work forms to your own personal movements? So if you had listened to what I had said, you wouldn't have asked that question. So what did I just say? If you follow directions and you find physical discomfort, it's because most likely your unconscious resistance to the power that wants to come through. As context, I find connect to 5D more intensely when doing the energy work as a reflection of my soul. I mean, look, if you know what works for you, why are you asking me what to do? As I've said, this isn't a dogma thing. I'm going to tell you what I think works, and what I tend to do is when I go to learn from somebody and they do something better than I do, I tend to do what they do, even if I don't understand it. You go to a Kung Fu guy and he says, I'm going to teach you how to really deliver some force with your punches, and you say, yeah, I've been a boxer for years, so I do it like this. And he's going to say, well, then you have no business being here. Go start your own studio. You don't need to come into my studio. You came in here to learn my style. So drop everything you think you know. Just because something is difficult, just because something is unusual, again, it's laziness. It's immature to want to constantly change things into how it's comfortable for you. If you are comfortable with yourself and you know your body and you know what to do and you know what works for you, you don't have to ask me. But it works against you to try and get me to tell you, can I do it differently than what you've been telling me to do? Because I don't like doing it that way. Do I have to? That way's hard. I mean, how am I going to respond positively to that? No teacher does. So if you want to do it your own way, do it your own way. I encourage you to follow instructions. And if you absolutely find out that it doesn't work, then you can do whatever the hell you want. But what's probably going to happen is at some point you're going to adjust your posture, you're going to learn to do something, and then the energy that I'm trying to lead you toward is going to kick in. You're going to go, oh, that's why he did it that way. But you can't do that if you already know. You got to empty your cup, guys. Come on, this is basic stuff. I shouldn't have to be telling you this. But maybe you've never had a teacher before, maybe you're young, maybe you're inexperienced. There's nothing wrong with a question. So again, my apologies. I'm old school and that's how we used to do things. Again, asking me the same questions. Can you improvise? Look, why don't you master what I've given you first? Then improvise. Again, the great thing about having learned in energetic martial arts is that it's not up for debate. Either that punch works or it doesn't. And so the teacher tells you how to stand, how to move the energy. You can't do it at first because it's not natural to you. You have to use different mindset, different muscles, different postures, and then you can't do it, and he keeps adjusting your form, and you work, you go against the difficulty, you go against your laziness, you go against your resistance, and then finally it kicks in, and then you learn how to do it. And then in 20 years, you then improvise. And then you say, I improved upon what the teacher gave me. If you want to improve on what I'm giving you, you have my full support. But you first have to learn what I'm teaching you first. The other thing is, I can tell you're new, because everybody always wants to do things differently. And the reason for that is you are sabotaging your own empowerment. It's your intellect getting in there trying to sabotage the process, trying to control things. The other thing about learning is not being in control. What have I been saying this whole time? When you go to the 5D, you have to not be controlling anything. So all of this wanting to adjust and do it your own way, I tried it for 10 seconds, I didn't understand it, I like to do it this way, that's you trying to control things, and not because it's better your way, even though you tell yourself it is. It's because it makes you feel safe, because now you're in control. If you follow my directions and it's new to you, you're going to be out of control, and that's frightening. So this is basic student stuff. This is basic immaturity. This is why students have to follow discipline. That's why in China, back in the day, you walk into the studio and you say to the Sifu, I want to learn Kung Fu. And he says, good, go stand on one leg in the corner. If you don't immediately just go and stand on one leg in the corner, if you do anything other than that, if you say, why do I need to do that? He says, thank you, there's the door. And he says that because he knows he won't be able to teach you, because you won't be able to let go of your ability, your desire to control. You won't go empty and be uncomfortable and be awkward and not be able to accomplish things. He knows you won't be able to tolerate that, which means he won't be able to teach you the advanced things. Now, I'm not your teacher. I'm just some guy on YouTube. I'm just a talking head on YouTube. But I am giving you practices that are coming directly from higher dimensional master beings. And I'm telling you that if you give yourself to the unknown, which in this case means doing practices and procedures that I'm not familiar with and that I don't feel are powerful and I don't feel comfortable with. When you do that and you do it to experience the unknown and to be out of control and be afraid, that opens up a vortex and these beings will show up. And these beings will then, you'll find yourself slightly, you'll feel your posture starting to change. You'll feel energy jolting through you. These are these beings teaching you. In my experience, what happens when I've started new things and I start with a posture I've never done before, and I give myself to the posture, this Mao Shan practice, what'll happen is a being will show up and I'll feel just huge amounts of energy going through me. My posture will adjust slightly. You might even hear my back crack a little bit or something like that. And there will just be this unbelievable amount of energy. And I'll go, oh, that's what it is. And then I'll do it the next day and I won't feel anything. It's because that being was showing me, here's where this is going to take you. Now it's your job to get yourself there. So I've shown you what to do. I've told you where it can take you. Your job as a student is to not know better than the teacher until you've mastered what I've taught you to do. Then you can go and be better than me, and I will be the first person to come to your class and learn your new thing. Now, there are other students who are taking stuff that I've taught, and the beings are teaching them additional things on top of that. That's different. They're doing what I've taught, and the ETs are coming and sharing them. The ETs did the same thing with me when I was learning the spirit fighting. But I first learned what my teacher was teaching me. Again, I'm hammering this not about me. It's about you working with higher dimensional beings. If you want to learn from them, this is what a human teacher is. This is why in India, they do it in China as well, or they used to anyway. In India, you will go to somebody's home and there will be the picture of the guru on their altar. And they will literally bow down to the picture of the guru. That's not because the guru is their God. It's because they know the guru is the channel to the beings that are teaching them. And they know that the guru is the physical emissary of them. And so when the guru says, you do this and you do this and you do this, they say, yes, guru, and they do it. I'll give you another story. This is from a yoga master, and he went to go learn a specific hidden teaching from a yogi living in the Himalayas, and the guy told him to get into, some prayer, posture on the ground, and he didn't tell him to get out of it, and he had to stay there for like 2 days straight or something. And then when after he was there for an inhuman amount of time, both night and day, then the guru came back and said, "Okay, I'll come and teach you," because he had proven to the guru that he could follow directions, that he was willing to die to himself in order to learn something new. Because if you know better than me, and I'm gonna do it this way, I'm gonna improvise this, there's no possible way you can open yourself up to something new. And the whole point of learning is to open yourself up, to transform yourself beyond your limited frequency. Got it? So again, I know you're new to the channel, otherwise you wouldn't ask me that question. And so I hope that's helpful to you. Cats and Me question: I want to get the 923 Thunder Wizard Mao Shan package. What can I say to my dad for him to spend that kind of money for me? I don't know. Why would I tell you that? You're asking me how to manipulate your father? I'm not going to do that. That's between you and your dad. Again, the way to look at this, I appreciate you're trying to take the actions to get what you want. It's very inexpensive. I know a little bit about you, Cats and Me, so maybe you've got some limitations. Start thinking in other directions, like what can I do to get the money? Do something different. Can you go get a job? There's got to be some way that you can go do something to get that amount of money. You're not thinking about the mindset is I'm going to do whatever the hell I need to get what I want. You're not thinking like that yet. Right now you're doing the easiest thing, which is try to manipulate your dad into giving it to you. And I'm absolutely not going to tell you how to do that. What goes on between you and your dad is none of my business. But that might not be the only way for you to get what you want. So open yourself up and tell yourself, I can do whatever is necessary to get what my soul wants. Afroman question. Greetings, Mahadeva. Do we feel with our universal intention and energy work? Celestial Qigong help grow Earth's vegetation, such as our garden, at an accelerated rate? I don't understand the question in the slightest. Very intellectual. Let me read it again. Do we feel with our universal intention and energy work? I don't even know what that means. Celestial Qigong help grow Earth's vegetation. Again, Afroman, there's something that you do consistently, which I keep trying to point out to you, which is that you come up with an idea and then you present it as a question. You've already come up with the idea and you're wanting me to co-sign it, and that's not a question. A question would be, how can we help Earth's vegetation grow at an accelerated rate? That would be a question. Now, I don't have the answer to that. I can come up with ideas, but I haven't done that, so I don't have any experience. So Afroman, again, you've been on my channel a long time. I encourage you to learn how to ask a question. And Afroman, I know you've done the Celestial Qigong, which is definitely something I teach. I'm not aware that you're subscribed to the 90-day challenge. I'm not aware what practices you're doing. I'm not aware. And the idea is to sort of keep up with me in the channel and be doing the practices that I'm teaching. And these practices that I teach, if you do them on a daily basis, will start to change the way that you think. And if that doesn't work, then the best thing I can recommend people to do is to work with me. So I have a teacher. I have a group of people that I work with. I don't do this thing alone. Of course, I have the higher dimensional teachers as well, but I'm not so full of myself to think that that's it. All I need is me and the gods, and I'm okay. I don't think that's rational. So everybody should have a teacher, and the main goal of a teacher is to help you change your thinking and your interaction with the unknown. If you're doing it by yourself, you've got an idiot for a teacher. And what's what they say, if you're your own lawyer, you've got an idiot for a lawyer. Because nobody, even the guru, I can't change my own thinking by myself, because my thinking got me into whatever my problems are. So whatever your limitations are, that's what you're using to try and teach yourself. I can give you the practices, I can do these lectures, but it's not the same as me working with you one-on-one. So Afro Man, you need to be working with somebody. If you want, you can be an apprentice with me. I think I have some slots available at thunderwizard.com. But you need to have somebody to call you on your ineffective thinking and need to give you some practices to help you change that. And I don't get the sense that you're doing that, which is why for what feels like years, perhaps, you keep asking me these questions in this way. You come up with an idea and then you present it as a question, and I keep saying the same thing to you every time, which is that's not a question. That's a statement, and you want me to co-sign your statement. So I think you need a teacher. DMT Entity 88, welcome to the channel, my friend. I can tell by your question you're not doing the practices. Am I wrong? That question is so intellectual and so broad, it's meaningless. How does that question help you? My only interest is helping you grow, and that question is an intellectual question, and if I buy into it, which is obviously you're setting me up to say yes, then now you and I have pulled ourselves down to a lower frequency, and we're complaining about how screwed up other people are, and knowing you, that's the last thing you need. So, if you want to ask me questions about how to do the practices, I will really enjoy that question. You want to start asking me this kind of intellectual stuff that, we would ask at a bar, two guys get together, and yeah, those stupid idiots, I'm not going to respond well because it doesn't serve you. Again, what is a question? A question is coming from an emotional need within you that you need to solve, a problem you need to solve. That I don't see in that question. DMT Entity 88, do you have a teacher? What are you doing on a daily basis for your own empowerment? That's a hypothetical question. I don't need an answer. Okay, I'm not going to get into this with you cats and me about you and your dad. It's none of my business. Ivan Mark, question. Can I practice Qigong late at night before bed, or is there a certain time of day for better results? I know from that question you're not subscribed to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. If you were, you wouldn't ask that question. Because we have a morning practice, we have a midday practice, and we have an evening practice. And I tell you when is the best time to do these practices. So if you want to answer that question, and I'm only talking about the Qigong that I teach. You talk to somebody else, some other style of Qigong, they'll have a different answer. So I answer that question, go to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, subscribe, and you'll get specific instructions on when to do each of the types of Qigongs and practices that I teach. Thank you for that question. Glitch Nightmares, do you see above you? Ivan wrote the word question in all caps. That's so that I can see it. Please do that. In the future, you say, how much time a day would you say is needed to get through the 90-day challenge? That's a really great question. And that is a question that is easily answered by subscribing and doing it. I tell you in that you don't have to do all of the things that I've got on there, and that, I tell people to find, based on their schedule, how to fit it in and how to make it work. So the question that you're trying to set me up for is, you want me to answer it in a certain way so that you can go, oh, I don't have time for that. So I'm sorry, I can't give you that, because you can adjust it to your schedule. So go to the Warrior 90 Day Light and Qigong and subscribe, and then do what you need to do. Thordis Hauksdottir. That's an interesting Norse-sounding name. Hey, Michael, can you elaborate? Please write the word question so that I can see it. Hey, Michael, can you elaborate on the transition part from the hu to r in the exhaling part of the breathing? I don't know how to elaborate on it. I mean, you've heard me do it out loud. You do the same thing, but with the silent breath. You hear it in the background. Just copy that. I don't know how else to answer it. I hope that answers your question. You say, I'm experiencing having little breath left when guiding the breath back up through the body. So then don't exhale all of the energy out on the hu breath. But if you're doing the silent breath, which it sounds like you're not, the silent breath, when you do it correctly, it will take a very long time for the air to leave your body. If you're doing the silent hul breath in the hul breath technique that I teach on the hul breath video, if you're doing that and you're running out of air, it means you're doing it wrong. So the breath has to come out of the mouth and the nose at the same time. That can only happen when you are barely exhaling. Try it. You can't do it if you're doing it a lot. So in order to get that to happen, you can barely feel anything coming out. You won't hear any air coming out of your mouth. So short answer is, change the technique. Go back and watch the hul breath video that I made 10 or 15 years ago. Follow those directions, and that should take care of that problem. Let me know if there are other things that come up. All right, anything else? No, we're all done. All right, guys, that's it. Again, I'm kind of on the fence about taking questions, because I really don't like being that that kind of teacher where I go up against your unconscious, because people are brand new. They're just showing up here. Even the people who have been around here for years, I know they haven't spent 40 years working the 12 steps. I know they haven't spent 30 years doing Qigong and energy work. I know they haven't worked with teachers. And so, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous for me not to expect people coming with real, immature beginner questions. But I don't know how else to respond to it. My job is to help you get into the right mindset. So please don't take any of these personally. None of the things I'm doing is a personal attack. What you're running into is my frustration with seeing somebody who's acting in a way that devalues their essence. And it frustrates me. It hurts me and it angers me. Because what I want for everybody is to be individuated and completely connected to themselves. Understand, part of being a student is to trust the teacher. And so what I want you to trust, that at least I'm intending to do, is that everything that I teach you to do, including all of the techniques that I give you to do certain things, is designed to get you to the place where you will become aware of your power. You will not need anything or anybody outside of you. So when somebody wants to change the things that I'm teaching because they don't understand it, it's not comfortable, it's like you're asking me, can I act in a way that is less empowering? And my response is to get angry because I care about you. And I, it's like, there have been times, maybe you've done this, people have said this to me, I've said it to people, people will beat themselves up and I'll say, don't do that. You are important to me. And I would never let anybody talk to you the way that you're talking to yourself right now. You're angering me because you're damaging somebody I care about, which is you. Don't hurt the person I care about. That's what's going on with the anger when I'm getting frustrated with you, because I'm seeing you, whoever you are. My experience is that you're acting out in ways that devalue and destroy you, and I know that you're acting out of your programming. But now it's a shocking surprise. For the first time, you're finding out you've been programmed to devalue and destroy yourself. And I won't let you do that. You can't stay in my classroom if you devalue yourself. I won't let you stay here. So by doing the difficult things that I teach you to do, if they're difficult for you, the difficulty is coming up because you're bumping into your self-devaluating programming, and it's much easier to stay in what you know because it's comfortable. It's not because I'm trying to make things difficult for you. I mean, if there are people, I give this to them, they do it without even thinking about it and it works, that's the easiest way. But I also know I need to address your resistance. This is how I do it. I'm a Mars teacher. This is how Mars works. So just know that everything I do is for my intention is for your empowerment. And let me just now take the time to thank every single person who's come on here, everybody whose desire is to evolve. My special thanks go out to everybody who's doing the work. Afro Man's doing the Celestial Qigong. Thank you for doing that. Thank you to all of my students, all of my apprentices, all of those of you I don't know who are doing the practices and not communicating. I appreciate every single one of you who are taking actions to evolve, because when you evolve, I evolve. And when you evolve, every single other conscious being in the universe evolves, including the gods themselves. And whatever awakening I have is because of the work that you do, and for that I am eternally grateful. So with that, I want to thank you and let you know how much I love you and I appreciate you. And we'll be back, we'll do it some more. I'll be uploading more stuff to the 90-day challenge. As I'm physically injured, I can't surf, so I got nothing else to do. So I'll be making more videos and uploading them. And as always, if the flash don't come and or I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, I'll see you soon. If you want to ask me a question and have me make a video about it, you can go to askmike.thunderwizard.com. I'll make a video. If you want my books, go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You already know the other places to go. Thank you, my friends. I love you all, and I shall see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves. Happy New Year. I'm going to be working on New Year, so I might see you then. All right, take care.